It is estimated that 5 babies are born every second worldwide. There are also other sources that talk about 2 to 3 babies. In just 9 months, a single cell develops into a complete human being. But how exactly does this process work from fertilization to birth? Welcome to Erklärwürdig, worth explaining. It all starts with sexual intercourse. During the male orgasm, around 40 to several hundred million sperm are released. These embark on a challenging journey. They pass through the cervix and finally the fallopian tubes. Only a few hundred sperm actually reach the egg, and only one of them can penetrate the outer shell. As soon as this happens, the egg's membrane changes and prevents further sperm from entering. Now, a fascinating process begins: the fusion of the parental DNA. The resulting zygote contains 46 chromosomes, 23 from the mother and 23 from the father, and thus determines the genetic profile of the future human being. After fertilization, the zygote immediately begins to divide. A rapidly developing cluster of cells, first 2 cells are formed, then 4, 8, 16, and so on. During these divisions, the zygote moves through the fallopian tube towards the uterus. After about 5 to 6 days, it reaches the uterine cavity and develops into a blastocyst. This consists of an outer cell shell, which later becomes the placenta, and an inner group of cells from which the embryo forms. Now comes the crucial phase: implantation into the uterine lining. During this process, the blastocyst releases the hormone HCG, which signals the body to stop menstruation and maintain the pregnancy. In the next few days, the embryo begins to develop. In the first few weeks, the embryo changes rapidly. Between the 5th and 6th week of pregnancy, the heart begins to beat, a simple system of tubes that develops into a complex structure in the following weeks. At the same time, the brain, spinal cord, and the foundations of the organs are forming. Arms and legs appear as small buds. By the 8th week of pregnancy, all vital organs have already formed, even if they are still immature. The face also begins to form. Eyes, ears, nose, and mouth take shape. The placenta and the umbilical cord now take over the complete supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo. In the second trimester, between the 14th and 26th week of pregnancy, the baby's development continues to accelerate. During this phase, the fetus can move actively, spread its fingers and toes, suck its thumb, and respond to sounds. From the 14th week, the gender can be determined with some certainty using ultrasound. Brain development progresses quickly, and from the 16th week, hearing is now sufficiently developed for the baby to be able to hear, for example, the rushing of the mother's blood. The heartbeat can be heard with a stethoscope around the 20th week, and many expectant mothers feel the baby's first movements during this phase, a very special moment. In the 3rd trimester, the baby prepares for birth. The lungs continue to mature so that the baby can breathe independently after birth. In the last few weeks, the baby stores more fat reserves to regulate its body temperature after birth. Many babies now turn into the cephalic position in order to be optimally positioned for birth. Many mothers now feel the so-called Braxton Hicks contractions more intensely, which prepare the body for delivery. The baby's immune system also continues to develop, as the antibody concentration increases with each week. The mother's antibodies are transported via the umbilical cord and thus enter the child's blood. Birth begins with the first regular contractions. The rhythmic muscle contractions ensure that the baby slowly moves towards the birth canal. The amniotic sac does not necessarily have to rupture before the actual birth, as is often seen or heard in movies. This can also happen during the birth. The opening phase can last several hours as the cervix becomes increasingly dilated. The transition phase follows. The cervix opens to about 10 centimeters and irregular contractions may occur during this phase. Once the cervix is fully opened, the expulsion phase begins with the pressure phase. During this time, the breaks and contractions become shorter, and the baby slides deeper and deeper into the pelvic floor. At some point, the urge to press is automatically triggered, and the mother must actively press to get the baby out. After birth comes the first breath, an unforgettable moment for the parents. Then the umbilical cord is cut, and the placenta is expelled. Every child is a small miracle, and isn't it fascinating how such a complex organism develops from a tiny sperm and an egg cell? I hope you enjoyed this video, and that you will continue to follow me for more knowledge-based content. I look forward to the next time.